There are two sides out there when it comes to sports cars. You've got your American muscle car people, and you have the import car people. It's an ongoing rivalry on which one is better. But no matter what side you're on, there's no denying that the import side has a lot to offer. Now check out these 18 best Japanese sports cars ever made. Honda S2000. The interesting thing about Honda is that the company started building rear-wheel drive convertibles. One of these was the 1963 Honda S500 two-door roadster. So it made sense when Honda designed and built the S2000 to celebrate the company's 50th anniversary. And what a cool car it is! The S2000 is named after its engine displacement of 2.0 liters and carried on the tradition of the previous S-model roadsters. It featured a front mid-engine, rear-wheel drive layout with the engine put out at a respectable 237 to 247 horsepower at a blistering 9,000 RPM without a turbo. In fact, the S2000 engine achieved what Honda claimed as being the highest normally aspirated production automobile engine in the world. The interior of this car was definitely sporty with leather racing bucket seats, leather-wrapped steering wheel, and the driving fun was amplified by the 6-speed manual transmission. The only bad thing about this car is that Honda stopped producing it in 2009. The average used price is around $15,000, which is a steal for such a fantastic car. Toyota 2000 GT. Famous for its starring role alongside Sean Connery in the 1967 James Bond film You Only Live Twice. The Toyota 2000 GT arrived on the world stage in the same year and instantly made a statement that Toyota was serious about challenging the best sports cars Europe had to offer. Toyota collaborated with Yamaha to do whatever necessary to not only produce the 2000 GT, but make it one of the, or perhaps even the greatest car in the world. It's plain to see that the GT was designed with the driver at heart, with its perfectly formed cabin, its driver-focused design, and a 150 horsepower 2-liter inline 6-cylinder would propel the GT to 140 miles per hour. For a car of that time, it was what many called world-class performance. In fact, it set 3 world records and 13 international records. The 2000 GT enjoyed many racing successes and most notably the 1967 Fuji 24-hour race. Honda CRX. There are many supposed definitions for the acronym CRX, but the most widely accepted is Civic Renaissance X. The car was produced from 1983 to 1991 and was marketed as an economy sport camback or hatchback car that had room for 2 small passengers in the back. It was a sporty little car with a 1.5-liter 130 horsepower engine. The CRX was popular for its performance, its good handling, and it had good fuel economy. The original 1.3-liter engine got 52 miles per gallon on the highway, and in 1984, it was reported to achieve over 70 miles per gallon. However, the tiny car had almost no protection in the event of a crash or side impact, and the car was discontinued in 1991. Nissan Skyline GTR. When it comes to high performance, the Skyline GTR is a car that has the credentials to back it up. It is the world's fastest accelerating production 4-seater and the fastest 4-seat production car around the Nürburgring racetrack in Germany. Production of this car began in 1969 and ended in 2002, and it has quite a history, with the R34 Skyline being one of the most famous. The Skyline GTR was never manufactured outside of Japan, and the sole export markets were Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand. The car was nicknamed Godzilla, and surely it was because of its awesome performance at the time, and you could get a 2.6-liter or 2.8-liter twin-turbo inline 6-cylinder engine that produced 276 horsepower. Honda Civic Si. Not only is the Civic Si among the best performance values you could find, Car and Driver named it one of the 10 best cars you could buy. The Si enthralls enthusiasts with its ethereal chassis, manual-only transmission, and 205 horsepower turbo 4-cylinder. Its acceleration isn't as spellbinding as its ride and handling, but the bang for your buck is nearly unbeatable. The car is light enough that you'll rarely want more power, and the coupe can sprint from 0 to 60 in 6.3 seconds. The interior of the Si is relatively spacious and comfortable, and it's a car that you can drive like a little terror when you want, or simply go on a nice relaxing cruise. Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. The Evo, as it's affectionately known, is another sports sedan that has had 10 versions to date, with all using a 2-liter turbocharged inline 4-cylinder engines and all-wheel drive system, making them an awesome rally car candidate. This is the car that has had its horsepower controlled by a limiter just so it could be imported to the United States. In fact, the agreement was to advertise no more than 280 horsepower. Of course, it was easy to untap the car's true potential with a slew of available aftermarket parts. Despite this, each subsequent Evolution version has unofficially evolved above the advertised power figures, with the Japanese spec Evolution 9 reaching an alleged output of 317 horsepower, and in the UK there was a 440 horsepower version available. The 10th and final generation of the Lancer Evolution, called the Evo X, was launched in Japan in 2007 and overseas markets in 2008, where it was produced for almost 10 years before being retired in 2016. Subaru Impreza WRX STI. The Subaru Impreza WRX STI, or Subra Technica International, is a high-performance, stripped-down all-wheel drive vehicle customized from the base Impreza production sports compact vehicle. Between 1992 and 2001, there have been 6 generations of the STI, and it's a familiar and rapid road rocket with standard all-wheel drive, a 6-speed manual transmission, and a 310 horsepower turbocharged flat-4 engine. The highs of the car are its race styling, the all-wheel drive grip, and its rally car demeanor. The WRX STI's turbocharged 2.5-liter flat-4 is eager to rev and pumps out a characteristic flat-4 burble from the car's quad exhaust pipes. However, it's the same old engine from previous models, and it's probably time for an upgrade. Nissan GT-R. The GT-R is the flagship of Nissan Performance that replaced the Skyline GT-R, and each one of the engines in the car is hand-built by race engineers like the previous cars. The latest GT-R R35 can accelerate from 0 to 60 in just 2.0 seconds, which places it alongside the hypercars, McLaren P1 and Ferrari LaFerrari. The Nismo Edition GT-R has an astounding 592 brake horsepower and 481 foot-pounds of torque at 6,800 RPM. Oh, and some owners even say the car is better in the snow with its all-wheel drive system than an SUV. What's fun is that this car is now being hailed as Nissan's new Godzilla, and for a good reason. Acura NSX. The original NSX, which was phased out of production in 2005, provided easy day-to-day drivability minus the eco-friendliness. It had exotic looks, otherworldly performance, a compliant ride, and comfortable space for 2 adults and a reasonable amount of cargo. The NSX became the world's first mass-produced car to feature an all-aluminum body. It was powered by an all-aluminum 3.0-liter V6 engine, which featured Honda's VTEC system and a 5-speed manual transmission, or the F-Matic, which was a 4-speed automatic transmission, which could be shifted manually using a fingertip shift lever on the steering column. The new NSX is a hybrid sports car powered by 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 engine and 3 electric motors, and is still the same daily driver supercar that has close to 600 horsepower. Toyota MR2. The MR2 in the name meant that the tiny car is a mid-engine, rear-wheel drive, 2-seater, and it was one of the smallest cars around at the time. It ran for 3 generations, with the first one being introduced in 1984. There were 3 engine choices for the sporty little car: a 1.5-liter, a 1.6-liter, and even a supercharged 1.6-liter. Primary features were its 2,350-pound body, strong handling, and the lightly powered small displacement engine. Toyota enlisted the help of Lotus engineer Roger Becker to design the suspension and handling. The main engine was a 1.6-liter inline 4-cylinder and dual overhead cams with 4 valves per cylinder. The car put out 128 horsepower, and the supercharged version produced 145 horsepower. It was by no means a really fast car, but it was very fun to drive. Lexus LFA. This 2-seat sports car was manufactured by the luxury car driver of Toyota and was only produced for 2 short years, with only 500 cars ever made. It's definitely a beautiful car that had a 4.0-liter V10 engine that cranked out 552 horsepower at 8,700 RPM. The car was designed to showcase the performance capabilities of Toyota Motor Corporation and its Lexus marque. But you couldn't buy one of these cars as buyers were selectively chosen by Lexus, and the cost of the car was $375,000, depending on options and customization. This is one car that everyone wishes they still made. Toyota 86, Subaru BRZ, Scion FRS. Here's some interesting trivia for you. The Toyota 86, the Subaru BRZ, and the Scion FRS are all essentially the same cars. The FRS was just rebadged as a Toyota 86 due to Toyota axing the Scion division. Both the Toyota 86 and BRZ offer the same exact engine, a 2.0-liter four-cylinder that makes around 200 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque. In both cars, a 6-speed manual transmission is standard, while a 6-speed automatic is optional. Both cars are jointly developed by Toyota and Subaru, and they are both really great-looking cars. These are cars that literally scream performance, and with some aftermarket accessories, you could make it really come to life. Nissan 300ZX Z32. Nissan 300ZX is an awesome car, but if you like the car and wanted something more, then the 1989-2000 Z32 was for you. Also, the Nissan Fairlady Z. It was a new design with a wider body, rounder profile, and fewer hard edges. These changes made it more aerodynamic. It came with the same 3.0-liter V6 engine that had dual overhead cams utilizing variable valve timing and was rated at 222 horsepower and about 200 foot-pounds of torque, and that was naturally aspirated. The Z32 could come with an optional Garrett twin turbocharged version that had dual intercoolers and produced 300 horsepower and 283 foot-pounds of torque at 3,600 RPM. That's a lot of horsepower in a car that had a curb weight of 3,186 pounds. It was only produced between 1989 to 2000, with a total of 164,170 cars. The commemorative edition for their final 300 units shipped to America included decals and certificates of authenticity. If you were lucky enough to get your hands on one of these cars, we'd like to hear about it. Mazda RX-7 FD. Out of all the RX-7s, the last generation was the most coveted, which was introduced in 1991 and is better known by the code FD. You might be familiar with the car from the movie The Fast and the Furious, where Dominic Toretto drove a red 1993 Mazda RX-7 FD in the race with Brian O'Connor. Power came from a twin-turbocharged, twin-rotor Wankel powertrain with just 1.3 liters displacement. But what was the most surprising thing is that the little rotary engine pushed out 237 horsepower at 6,500 RPM. Plenty enough for a car that weighed just 2,888 pounds. Add some custom aftermarket parts like cold air intake and decent exhaust, along with a bottle of nitrous, and you have yourself a real street monster. Mitsubishi Eclipse 2nd Generation. Many of you might know about the performance of the Mitsubishi Eclipse. The 2nd generation of this car was designed to appeal to a broader market, and there was even a convertible called Eclipse Spider. You could get two versions, the GS and the GST. The GS was powered by a 2.4-liter inline four-cylinder engine that was naturally aspirated and put out 141 horsepower. But the GST had a turbocharged 2.0-liter engine that had an output of 210 horsepower, which, when paired with all-wheel drive, would catch a lot of people off guard at the light. Toyota Supra A80. Another incredible Japanese car. The Supra is well known and its capabilities are incredible when you know how to properly add performance parts and do a little engine tweaking with the possibility of getting 1,000 brake horsepower, if you spend enough time and money on it. The 4th generation Toyota Supra A80 was Toyota's move into the big leagues for the maker. The car came from the factory with a 326 horsepower twin-turbo inline 6-cylinder engine. The turbocharged variant could achieve 0 to 60 miles per hour in as low as 4.6 seconds and a quarter-mile times in 3.1 seconds at 109 miles per hour. The turbo version was tested to reach over 177 miles per hour, but was restricted to 112 miles per hour in Japan and 155 miles per hour everywhere else. Mitsubishi FTO. The FTO was made from 1994 to 2000, and it was named after its 1970s predecessor, the Galant FTO, which saw production stopped in 1975. It was a front-mounted front-wheel drive sports coupe that came with either a 1.8-liter inline-4 or a 2.0-liter V6 engine. It also came with either a manual transmission or a semi-automatic gearbox called Invex 2. The cool thing is that the FTO was a very light car weighing only 2,500 pounds, and the V6 Mavec engine produced almost 170 horsepower. In 2000, side impact safety standards were revised in Japan, and with that, the dwindling sales meant the car was no longer worth making. Datsun Sports Fairlady. The Datsun Sports, or the Datsun Fairlady as it was called in Japanese and Australian markets, was a series of two-seat roadsters that were produced by Nissan in the 1960s. It was designed to compete with the European MG, Triumph, Fiat, and Alfa Romeo sports cars. The lineage of this famous sports car began in 1959 with the S211 model and had continued through 1970 with the SP211 and SR311 lines. For performance, the S211 had a straight 4-cylinder engine that produced just 36 horsepower. For the time and how big the car was, it wasn't bad considering that the body of the car was made of fiberglass. Only 20 of these cars were ever built, making it the rarest of all Datsun models. By comparison, the S311, which was produced from 1965 to 1970, had a 1.6-liter engine that produced 95 horsepower. Marketed as the Fairlady 1600, or the Datsun Sports 1600, it was introduced to many export markets, including North America. These cars are rare and can fetch top dollar in car collector markets. We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know which one of these is your favorite in the comments. And if you like the video, make sure to click subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.